Hello and welcome to the Speak Up English podcast, a place where we don't just learn the language, we learn the stories that give words their power. I'm your host, David. If you're looking for a community that believes in growth, resilience, and the power of a good story, you've found your home. So hit that subscribe button and join us on this journey to not only speak better English, but to live a more meaningful life. Have you ever felt like you were a complete mess? Like life was just eating away at you piece by piece until you felt consumed by a sense of hopelessness? Today, I want to tell you a story about a man named Alex. It's a story about what happens when you're drained, when you feel numb, and when the only comfort you can find is in a bag of greasy potato chips. But more importantly, it's a story about how he found his way out. And it all started with a watermelon. A few years ago, Alex was going through a hell of a time. His separation from his ex-wife was final, and the loneliness was unbearable. To cope, he'd turned to food. It was his go-to distraction. He became addicted to the temporary high of sugar and salt. His desire for junk food was a powerful force, an urge he would constantly give into. His kitchen pantry was flooded with bags of chips and cookies, which he would retrieve late at night out of sheer boredom and desperation. He felt a deep disgust with himself, coupled with a profound despair. He was under a lot of stress, and his weight jumped significantly. His doctor was alarmed, warning him about the risk of heart failure. But the warnings just made him feel more hopeless. He was trapped. The shame was a heavy lifting he had to do every single day, and he was losing the strength to carry it. Then came the last straw. One night, tossing and turning, he felt a sharp pang in his chest. It shocked him. It was in that moment of pure fear, lying alone in the dark, that he decided he had to turn back. He couldn't let this consume his soul any longer. He knew he had to accomplish a change, but he had no motivation whatsoever. The next day, by some mercy, he came across a documentary about fasting. Now, he wasn't sold on the idea straight out. A prolonged fast seemed more than he could handle, but he was desperate enough to rethink his entire life. He decided to bide his time and try a 7-day water fast. He knew it was a huge sacrifice, and the temptation to eat would be immense. He had to set aside all his old habits. He read everything he could. He learned that to maintain his health, he needed to stay hydrated and keep his electrolytes balanced. He handpicked his supplements, vitamins and minerals, to avoid any complications. He knew the refeed process after the fast was crucial. He had to start with easily digestible foods like watermelon and citrus fruits to avoid refeeding syndrome. He stowed away every bit of junk food. The craving for his old go-to snacks was a constant battle. The first 3 days were the hardest. The hunger pangs were unbearable. He'd walk the nervousness off for hours. He'd count down the minutes. But something amazing began to happen around day 4. The cravings began to cease. The mental fog lifted. He felt a clarity he hadn't experienced in years. On the 7th day, he prepared to break his fast. He had a single cold chunk of watermelon waiting. He leaned over the plate, took a deep breath, and plunged his fork into it. He took that first sip of the juicy fruit, letting it sit in his mouth. He chewed slowly, and he was astounded. What he experienced was pure joy. It wasn't just the taste, it was the feeling of accomplishment. It was the feeling of having control for the first time in years. He had gone without food for 7 days, and in doing so, he had found a strength he didn't know he had. That one piece of fruit carried more wisdom and satisfaction than any meal he'd ever consumed. His entire relationship with food was transformed. He no longer saw it as a distraction or a mechanism to numb himself. He saw it as fuel. His appetite for life returned, significantly brighter. He started eating lean proteins, vegetables, and fermented foods like sauerkraut. He would monitor how he felt, and the change was rapid. The man who was once a mess, defined by his problems, was now a man dedicated to his well-being. So what's the real-life lesson here? What's your bag of chips? What's the habit, the thought, the feeling that's eating away at you? Is it boredom, nervousness, a sense of hopelessness? Alex's story teaches us that the hell we experience is often alone a problem of feeling powerless. But you have a power within you, the power to set aside the old story, the power to go without the thing that's holding you back, even if just for a little while. You must avoid the temptation to quit at all costs. Your transformation might not start with a fast. Maybe it starts with a 10-minute walk, with turning off your phone for an hour, with reading a book instead of scrolling. It starts by making one small, powerful choice. A choice that says, I will no longer be consumed. I will cope. I will build up my strength, one small victory at a time. The Bible talks about faith the size of a mustard seed being able to move mountains. Alex's mountain was in his kitchen, and he moved it. You can move yours too. It begins with that first, simple, courageous decision to take a different path, to choose the watermelon over the chips, to choose your well-being over your despair. You have that strength. You just have to retrieve it. Thank you for listening. This is David from the Speak Up English podcast. Remember, your journey to a better life begins with a single spoken word: today.